What's up, my ninjas? I'm Strident, and I am back with a quick review, well, a little review of The Wolverine, which is Fox's latest entry in the X-Men film series, and more importantly, the latest Wolverine, film. It stars Hugh Jackman, of course, Will Yoon Lee, and a ton of other Hiroyuki Sanada, which is he's freaking awesome, but in this movie he doesn't really, I don't know, he's just a typical Japanese bad guy in a film done for a Western audience, which is kind of lame, and it kind of, I don't know, but I'm getting besides the point. The movie is really the story of Logan finally feeling what it's like to be human. Pretty much during World War II, Wolverine saved a man during the bombing of Nagasaki, and the man wanted to repay, this act, several years later, and that's when we find Wolverine in the like out in the wilderness, just laying around, being haunted by dreams, like lucid dreams of Jean Grey talking to him from beyond the grave, she's appearing to him, and it kind of seems like the scenes are moments from before she died, and Wolverine is kind of in a peaceful state, but then either she'll say something or he'll do something kind of inadvertently, or like not necessarily on purpose, he's doing things kind of I don't know, it's like a reflex or something, but he's talking to Jean, he's holding Jean, he's kissing Jean, next thing you know he's stabbing Jean, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck? And these night dreams start turning into nightmares. Some of them have layers. It was kind of cool. Shows you just how fucked up he is, but on the other hand, it shows you just how mopey some of the world's favorite superheroes, or America's favorite superheroes, are. Aren't we tired of this yet? Where our main character just sits around and cries and mopes and, has flashbacks of all the fucked up shit they've been through. Like, it's getting old, But this is what Wolverine was doing. Later on, he finds himself, like we said, we find our hero who finds himself in the wilderness amongst all the bears and the wolves and, all the snow and all this, wonderful wilderness type stuff. He's chilling out there, sleeping in caves and shit. He's got long hair, a full wilderness beard, the whole nine. He pretty much is he's a recluse. He's left himself away from humanity to a degree. So anyway, he goes, he's hanging out, like I said, in the wilderness, and he's found by a woman named Yukio, or a girl named Yukio. Yukio works for a man named Yashida, who coincidentally is the guy who Wolverine saved during World War II. Yashida is now the head of a really powerful conglomerate, one of the most wealthy conglomerates in Japan, and he wants to thank Logan in person for, the deed he did so long ago. Anyway, Wolverine comes to Japan. He finds out that the Yashida family is having a power struggle. The elder Yashida wants to, when he dies, he wants to will all of his company, all his money, all his assets to his granddaughter. But his son feels that it should be him. He's always wanted to be the leader of the Yashida clan, and he feels he deserves it, and by any means necessary, he's going to make that happen. Wolverine, of course, being the big, typical white guy that he is in Hollywood, he shows up, falls in love with the granddaughter, and he goes out of his way to protect her, but not before he is visited by the evil Viper, which is one of the lamest fucking characters I've seen in a long time. But she puts one of those Matrix bug things on Wolverine's heart as she tongue kisses him in his sleep. And he thinks that it's Jean. The scene is actually well done, don't get me wrong. I sound sarcastic because there's a ton of cliches in this film. And I'm about to get to that because I'm about to finish my little synopsis with all the spoilers and all that shit. Anyway, she tongue kisses the shit out of Wolverine so deep that she hits his heart, and she puts this Matrix bug. You remember in the first Matrix, the thing that the agents dropped in Neo's belly, and he crawled into his belly button or whatever. She puts one of those with her tongue in his chest, all the way in his heart, and somehow with it latching onto his heart, it slows or suppresses his healing factor. So at long last, for the first time, Wolverine could possibly die. So what we have is a kind of a chopped up version of Wolverine issues. Let me see, because I have them right in front of me. Issues 55 through 57 from 1992. You have aspects of those, the basic underlying story of those 3 issues, and then this new story that kind of is a carryover from X-Men 3 with Wolverine, and feeling remorse for having to kill Jean, So you have some decent things because the son of the elder Yashida is played by Hiroyuki Sanada. Now, I told you guys I'm going to do some martial arts reviews, and I have a few movies of Hiroyuki Sanada. The best in my collection and in my opinion of his movies is a movie called Ninja in the Dragon's Den. Hiroyuki Sanada kind of plays a Ryu Hayabusa type because he still is a pretty ridiculous martial artist. He was in The Last Samurai, he was in Rush Hour 3, I think it was. He's been in a ton of movies. He was in the first In the Line of Duty. I think that version was called Royal Warriors. I could be wrong, but it had Michelle Yeoh and Mr. Sanada. They were the main characters. He was kind of like a Japanese version of Dirty Harry, and he was in China doing his thing, trying to go after this particular villain that helped kill his family at some point, or actually was responsible for killing his family at some point. So dude was nuts. But anyway, dude is a really good martial artist. He's seasoned. He's been around for a very long time. And that's one of the things that pisses me off about this film, is that you do have this character who has all this potential, and they do give you an idea of him understanding the martial arts and being versed in some Japanese martial arts, but they don't really explore it that much. It's kind of thrown in there because they realize who they had playing this role. He has people working for him, mostly Yakuza. Then the elder Yashida has a black ninja clan. I was expecting the Hand because in the books, the Hand was involved. Most of the time, you had the Yashida clan versus the Hand. That was like the beef. In this, somehow they were afraid to use the Hand. I don't know why, because you don't really hear about the Hand in anything else. You don't see the Hand in anything else. I don't even think you hear about the Hand in that atrocious Elektra movie. But anyway, you pretty much have, like I said, a mix mash of things, which mostly come from the movies, and then you have the subplot from those 3 issues of Wolverine. In the 3 issues of Wolverine, you had several things going on, because like I said, you had the Hand, you had the Yashida clan, you had mercs, various assassins and mercs that were hired by different entities to take down Mariko Yashida, who was now, in this book, she had already become the head of the Yashida clan. The thing I don't like about this movie, and I'm going to get what I don't like out the way first, is people bitch and moan about Superman being invincible and how it's so boring to watch a Superman movie because you know that he's not going to die. Now, if you've watched more than maybe 5 movies in your lifetime, 2 of which star a main character, the title character, then you know, because it is the story of the title character, for the most part, they're not going to kill that character off in their movie. At least not mostly in Western films, you know, especially action films. Now, Eastern is a different story, you know what I mean? European, different story, because they tend to have, you know, one-off films with a hero that they want to kill off and make it final, because they never want to revisit those characters again, and it kind of makes the character more legendary if they do awesome shit and die after they kind of fulfill what they were supposed to fulfill in the context of the story. But superhero characters like Wolverine or Batman or Blade or, you know, any of those characters, you know they're not going to die in their own story, because these days these kind of main characters are cash cows, and that's the way it works. With all the formulaic shit that's out there, we all have been trained to understand that our hero will make it through the film. This movie does a good job of torturing your main character, but because you know who he is, you know he's gonna survive. You know something's gonna pop up and happen and make him, you know, live through this, and it'll be a done deal. So, you know, with this knowledge in mind, it kind of makes everything that happens to Wolverine in this film kind of moot, because they try to make you feel sorry. They try to make you feel like, you know, holy shit, Wolverine has been compromised and now he can feel and stuff. And, you know, it's kind of cool to see him react to the injuries. But even without his healing factor, there's several inconsistencies. And there's the fact that on screen he slows down for like a second, and then he goes and he just continues doing whatever it is he was trying to do. You see him jumping from buildings and stuff, even though he doesn't have his healing factor, which means his muscles would tire, which means, you know, the rubbing and the damage that he would be doing. You know, parkour free runners or whatever, they damage themselves by doing what they do, jumping those heights and falling. Yeah, by rolling after you jump, you take damage, or you lessen the damage, I'm sorry, but you do take damage. Your knees take damage. You will not be able to parkour for your entire life. It just doesn't work like that. You know, athletes, it's the same deal. Wolverine, his bones and everything keep healing perpetually, so he just gets stronger. His muscles just keep knitting. That's why he gets so ripped and so big and he's so strong. Also, you got to think he's got extra weight because his skeleton is adamantium. So his muscles would have to be strong to carry that weight. In the books, I believe he's about 400 or 500 pounds, something like that. He's pretty damn heavy. They showed you this actually in the first X-Men Origins, because he couldn't swim because he weighs so much. Like, there's no buoyancy for the amount of weight that he's carrying. All this shit is thrown out of the window in this film just for the sake of spectacle. Several times he gets stabbed all the way through. I'm talking like through the sternum. But like I just mentioned, his skeleton is made of adamantium, so you can't stab him all the way through his sternum with a ninja blade. You know what I'm saying? It's that steel. It's ninja steel. It's not going through adamantium. But somehow they forgot about this. Bullets go right through his legs as if there's no bone sitting there. I mean, there's just so many times. I mean, he gets stabbed a lot in this film, especially towards the end. Little things like him drinking. He drinks so much, and he kind of acts like it's doing something to him. And this is before his healing factor is taken. And, you know, if you've read any, you know, Cap books or any X-Men books, you know Wolverine can't get drunk. Just like Cap. Cap can't get drunk either. So, and they make it even a note or a point to have the Viper, the main villain, mention this, or the behind-the-scenes villain. She mentions this whole thing. So, it's kind of lame to me that they did things the way they did, but it's expected because it's an X-Men Origins film. But I will say, with all that being said, the pros are that they finally made a Wolverine film that feels like it could be a standalone action film, you know, like the kind that when it comes on TV, you'll actually sit there and watch. Or the kind that you buy it because there's this awesome action sequence at this point in the movie that you want to see again. The bullet train sequence is pretty phenomenal. I was like, wow, that's actually pretty imaginative. but there are some repetitive things you keep seeing in the movie. Like Wolverine constantly gets hit in the face, and then he turns away from you, and then he slowly turns to the screen with a mad face, and then you watch the mark heal. I mean, it happens like at least 4 times in the film, and you're just like, here it happens again. Oh, there it is again. It could be a drinking game or something. I don't know. Or how many times does Wolverine get stabbed? That could be a drinking game. It's just there's a lot of things that are specific to Wolverine, obviously, but you see it done in such abundance that it's kind of like, eh. And little things like the Silver Samurai. Now that was a really cool idea, to take the character of Silver Samurai, turn him into an armor, and then add the details of his weapons and his costume being made of adamantium. I like that, because the book version, he was magical. He was like mystical. He had a black blade. The black blade could cut through anything except adamantium. So this was always what put him and Wolverine at odds whenever they fought. The film, on the other hand, lets you understand that if you heat adamantium, you can cut through adamantium, or whatever the blade was made of. If you heat it, you can cut through adamantium. Not once, but twice. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. So, they made Silver Samurai very formidable. But, like I said, it's an inconsistency, because we understand and we are told many a time that adamantium can't be broken and nothing cuts through adamantium. You have to melt it down. So how can a hot sword pull that off, I would have preferred for the only thing it can't cut through to let's see. Adamantium. The fight choreography is actually pretty good. Wolverine actually does things that make sense, and it looks like if he were to connect with a lot of these blows, that he would just tear somebody's head clean off. Like he would really be, ripping into people. And that's really cool, because for once you get to see Wolverine kind of fighting close to what we've been told he would fight like. Personally, I missed the smaller Wolverine that was really agile and jumped around and did all kinds of shit, but whatever, that's just me. But I do have to say that watching this film, you do see that Wolverine kind of appears like a bully, because no one can hurt him, except for, of course, the very last villain in the movie, which is the Silver Samurai. But no one in the film really can hold a card to him, especially with his healing factor. So he's just throwing all these Asian people around like rag dolls, And it's like, it feels kind of like a case of The Last Samurai syndrome all over again, where you have this white guy in this community where it's all these Asian people that have been doing this stuff for generations upon generations, and then Wolverine, who's been alive for generations but hasn't been training in this stuff, he's better than they are. And it just doesn't make sense, Now another plus, it feels kind of one-sided. Like I said, for every minus I'm going to give you a plus. I'm trying to fail. The set design, costume design, the designs of there's really not much that was actually redesigned, but the Silver Samurai himself, that shit's pretty nice. I gotta give them that. They actually tried. It actually kind of has a Iron Man-ish kind of feel to it, which is kind of nice, because it's them visually tying themselves into the other Marvel films, obviously Iron Man. The Viper is probably one of the corniest characters I've ever seen in a film. It's just, here's this random blonde chick who's immune to poisons, which it's not like Wolverine's going to try to poison her, who can kind of heal and kind of has super strength, and she supposedly is a decent fighter. And she can also inject you with the toxins that she can spray out of her tongue. And that's really it. What's the point of this character? I didn't see a point. I mean, she wasn't even hot, in my opinion. So, she was a lose. Complete lose. They could have gotten rid of her. Another plus. Let's see. I gotta think of one more before I cut this off and take an intermission and go to sleep, and then come back and finish the rest of it when I come back from work tomorrow, or today, technically. Let's see, one more good thing. Really, that's it. That is it. You do get ninjas. You do get Wolverine battling ninjas, but you have to wait almost the whole movie in order to see this. I did watch a couple reviews, and one thing people said was that they withhold a lot of information, and they do it about very obvious plot points, which is kind of frustrating because it would be nice if they just would come out and tell you so that the plot could actually progress, and then you could enjoy the action scenes as well as the drama surrounding them. You know what I'm saying? So there are a lot of little details where you're just like, ugh, of course. Like the little girl, Yukio, having the ability to see into someone's future and only be able to see their death. I wanted more of that in the film. I wanted to see what it looks like. How does she see things? You know, she said it's like looking through a keyhole, but they never showed you that. They just had her groan or wake up, and that's it, you know, and I wanted more. Another poor thing is there was no, what's his name, Matsuo in this movie. And I was hoping that Matsuo would be in there because you need someone who could actually fight, you know, could stand a chance to Wolverine. Also, there was no Psylocke in this movie, which I was hoping for because X-Men Origins didn't do the job. And X-Men First Class as well as X-Men The Last Stand, they didn't do the job. You know, I'm surprised that the X-Men movies still get sequels when each sequel was progressively worse than the last, you know? And I'll admit, I had tons of fun with X-Men 3. It wasn't up to snuff as far as, you know, being a good film on its own, you know? But there's a lot of things that need work, you know? I don't know if they're going to make a third X-Men Origins. If they do, I would hope that they choose a better plot. Or, you know, I don't know, maybe it'd be nice if they don't make a third X-Men Origins and they spread the love and, you know, give some other X-Men character like Cable his own series, or what's his name, Cyclops. Jesus, I'm calling Cyclops, what's his name? Yeah, you can tell I need some sleep. It just would make sense for them to focus on someone else with more of a story, because Wolverine's whole mopey, depressing, everybody around me dies situation is frustrating. Speaking of which, in the actual book, Mariko Yashida, she gets killed. She dies from the blowfish toxin. Let me go back. So, the Yashida clan and the Hand have been having this back and forth shit. And, pretty much, Mariko is forced to save Face. Hydra even shows up in this battle. So you've got the Hand, the Yashida clan, and then you have Hydra. So in order to save Face, she is asked to cut off one of her fingers. And it's kind of weird too, you know, because you're like, shit, this girl's got to chop off her finger just to save Face for her family. And she does it, and the blade is laced with blowfish toxin. The blowfish toxin poisons her immediately, and she dies in Wolverine's arms. Now, he had married this girl in this continuity, the comic continuity, as fucked up and crazy as it is. He married that girl. There was no reason why in this story they couldn't have showed you all that instead of harping on Jean as if Jean was the one chick that Wolverine loved. The only chick, you know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, he's loved many. I've said this before in other story or other reviews when talking about Wolverine. The movie version of Wolverine is like a 1/100th of the comic book character. He doesn't have the history, but it works because he still doesn't know his backstory. He doesn't know all of it, but he doesn't have the history, and they've warped and changed so much of what makes Wolverine Wolverine that it's really difficult for him to compare to the one we grew up reading. So Wolverine married Mariko, and then he left, and she was kind of pissed at him for that, but there was reasons behind why he left Japan, and there are other stories of Wolverine coming back to Japan to be with her, and he was kind of feeling himself slip out of the warrior mode and into kind of a husband mode where he was going to chill out and he wasn't going to be so crazy anymore, you know? He wasn't going to be fighting bad guys and shit. But when she dies, he gives all that shit up and he's like, fuck it, I'm going to kill everybody. I'm going nuts on all these people. So, oh, she wasn't supposed to cut off her finger. She was supposed to stab her hand. No, she was. I was right. I forgot. Anyway, also, in the book, there was a character named Cilia. I think her name was Cilia or Scylla. I think it's Cilia. She was this Weapon X-ish, robotic, you know, cybernetic chick with claws that was fighting Wolverine all through these 3 issues. And she was pretty badass. I mean, even for as far as 90s comics go, she was a badass character. Instead, we got the Viper. The Viper sucks. Plain and simple. She really doesn't serve any purpose in the film. She's like an extra villain thrown in for the sake of extra villain. You could add a nameless scientist that just gets killed in some explosion, because there were plenty of explosions towards the very end of the film. Instead, she shows up kind of trying to be eye candy. It was like she was the Thing from Splice. It was really weird. And she just didn't fit. So, you know, the movie has a lot going on that's good for it, but I can see why it opened to kind of a meh, you know what I'm saying? And it's going to leave the same way.